Hi and welcome to the event. Today we talk about healthcare in the age of COVID-19. Before we start, I want to introduce and thank our partners at Barclays Eagle Labs, The Landing and Vodafone, who've worked so hard to make this event possible. We do need to let you know that this webinar is being recorded and we will be sharing the video online for future viewing. If you're not comfortable with that, I would urge you to turn off your webcam now and it'll stop you popping up in the middle of the webinar. I would also like to ask everyone to make sure that you've muted yourselves and turn off your webcam and stay muted for the session as well, please. We do have a team on hand to help keep things under control.
Tahila, I think we've lost you. Can you unmute yourself?
I did. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yep, all good.
Okay, good. Just to go back, we'll have a brief Q&A session after the presentation. So we have a team member called Ask Questions here. So if you could direct all your questions to that person, please. You can go to a drop-down menu. You can write your question, go to drop-down menu, and you'll see Ask Questions here, and then you can just direct the question to that person. If you don't know how to direct a question to a person, you could just click on the chat at the bottom of the Zoom window, start typing them, select Ask Questions here from the drop-down list. And if you don't remember, just write the questions and we'll pick it up afterwards. And I think that's about it for now. So please stay muted and send your questions and we'll all get that started. Now, so since the start of the pandemic, we have seen a seismic shift in healthcare, how healthcare is delivered. GP surgeries have closed their doors and triage their patients over the phone, and only when necessary would patients be seen face to face. Hospitals have had to change how patients are allowed in, and again, how they will see their patients. Pharmacies, on the other hand, we've stayed open, but again, we've had to change how we see our patients. A lot of us had glass screens up, or PVC screens up, and allowed only a handful of patients in at a time. So everyone's essentially changed how we deliver healthcare. So tonight we want to we'll look at how Vodafone has been working hard to develop innovative healthcare products that can help healthcare professionals monitor patients remotely, reduce risk of disease transmission, and enhance the quality of patient data through the use of IoT. That's Internet of Things for you and me. So before we start, I would like our partners at The Landing and Barclays to say a few words. Over to you, Chris.
Cool. Thanks, Tahila. So my name is Chris Stevens. I am the Business and Community Manager at The Landing. If you have not heard of us, we are a tech hub in the heart of Media City, up in Greater Manchester, where we help sort of early stage technology focused startups, SMEs, scale and grow in a supportive environment. But it's not just office space. We've got a number of strategic partners in place to support some of our members, and we've been working with some of those partners like the Pharmacist Cooperative, Vodafone, who are here today, and Barclays on a number of projects over the years. So I'm just very excited to finally get them all in the same room and do some cool things together. I think, like a lot of you on this call, we're all really excited to see how technology can be used in the healthcare industry, not just to improve the lives of the general public and the patients you all work with, but you as business owners, and how we can make improvements to your day-to-day lives as healthcare professionals. So you're not here to hear me talk, so I won't go into too much detail. I'll drop my sort of messages, my contact details in the messages. And if you want to learn more about The Landing and what we might be able to do to support your business, then please let me know. And yeah, thanks for coming.
Thanks, Chris. And now over to Tony Cole, Barclays Business Manager. Over to you, Tony. You're on mute. Sorry, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Okay, my name's Tony Cole. Thanks for the invite to Heedle and everyone. I'm a Barclays Business Relationship Manager, Manchester City Centre and Greater Manchester. I've been with Barclays 35 years. I've got 20 years experience in looking after business relationships. I look after business predominantly 1 million turnover to 5 million turnover, with funding up to 1 million. But as the size of Barclays Bank, clearly we can look at smaller and bigger propositions through colleagues. I've developed a degree of healthcare specialism, predominantly in pharmacies, over the last few years. I'm particularly intrigued to learn more about the impact of COVID-19 on pharmacies and what the immediate future holds for that business sector. At Barclays, we've been very much open for business for pharmacies over the last 2 to 3 years. We've got a preference to look for established businesses with a decent track record, but the trading landscape is changing constantly within all business sectors, especially this year, but particularly pharmacy. NHS funding has changed. It's seen an 8% income fall year on year, so it's even more important these days that such pharmacies look to diversify the business with ancillary services. The location of the pharmacy is key, and obviously if it can be located nearby GP practices, that always assists them sort of businesses. NHS turnover of 7,000 prescriptions per month and above is more or less our target market, what we're looking at. We see them businesses being more attractive. But we do have a flexible industry lending criteria, which I'll go into in a second or so. Clearly, in the last 6 months, the tide's changed, so there's been a slight tightening of policy across most businesses, but there's still a degree of flexibility within that. We do tend to look at businesses in this sector. Gross profit margins usually around about 33%, give or take. EBITDA margin around about 11%. When we're looking at funding propositions at Barclays for pharmacies, our debt service cover, if the proposition is less than $500,000, we're looking now for a minimum of 2.25 times adjusted EBITDA to prove affordability for a proposition. More than $500,000, minimum 1.75 times. For businesses that have got a good track record and a good risk grade, we can fund up to £100,000. Now that can either be a mixture of overdraft or loan. If it's a sole trader partnership, we can take that on board and consider it on an unsecured basis. If it's a limited company, we'd normally take a personal guarantee signed within the offer document. When a customer is approaching us to look to buy a commercial owner-occupied property, the loan to value for a freehold concern, where we're taking a mortgage or a charge over the actual premises, is 85% loan to value. So I was asking for a 15% deposit. If it's a leasehold occupational lease type business, where there's no property offered, just a charge over the lease, then up to 75% loan to value. But again, we can look case by case basis and look for each individual case to see what parameters we can go to, but they're the normal guidelines. Both valuations are against an operating concern valuation, so not only if the property is involved, we're looking at the business itself and its profitability. The maximum term for loan funding is 15 years usually. Leasehold occupational leases, if a business has a few units, let's say up to 3 units, as long as the lease expires going towards 15 years, that's what we tend to look for, and break clauses. If it's a leasehold proposition where there's 4 to 6 units, then normally minimum 75% of them leases need to kind of match the loan term. I've onboarded various pharmacy business over the last few years, and we still have a strong appetite within this sector, and my contact details will be on this call. If you want to ask any questions, more than happy to answer them. And thank you for the opportunity.
And thank you, Chris. Sorry, Tony. So on to our main presentation on IoT and how remote patient monitoring is here to change how we monitor our patients. So welcome John Lee Davis, IoT Healthcare Lead for Vodafone Business.
Thank you, Tahidal, and thank you everybody for listening in, and appreciate you taking the time this evening to hear about our experience at Vodafone. I'm just going to share some slides that I will talk through. So hopefully everybody can see those. I'm just going to adjust the screen here. So my name is John Lee Davey, as Tahidal mentioned. I work for Vodafone IoT, and my role is the Global Healthcare Lead for IoT. So just as a quick introduction to myself, on top of my experience at Vodafone with connected and mobile health services, I have a background in the medical device industry and a short stint in academia. Tonight, I wanted to provide a high-level overview of how I... Sorry, could you just go on mute, please? So I just wanted to provide an overview of how IoT is shaping healthcare from our experience at Vodafone around the world, and provide a bit of insight into what we're doing to help deliver this innovation and ensure that even more patients can benefit from IoT, particularly since the impact of the coronavirus pandemic. So the examples that I talked through tonight describe how care in the broadest sense is being transformed by IoT, and hopefully we can provide a bit of insight or inspiration into the potential use of technology in pharmacy services. So many of you may be familiar with Vodafone through our consumer services, such as mobile and fixed communications, and some of you may even be our customers of our business solutions. So we are a global company. We have mobile services in 22 countries around the world. We have fixed operations in 17 countries. And we also operate in conjunction with many partner markets. So that gives us the ability to touch hundreds of millions of lives around the world. And we can draw upon this global experience to transfer knowledge and best practice between countries. We have a comprehensive set of services to offer business customers, including our traditional mobility and unified communication solutions. And these have helped ensure that our customers have been able to stay in touch and collaborate over the past few months. But also within Vodafone Business, we have a unit dedicated to the Internet of Things, and this is one of the fastest growing areas of Vodafone Business. If you're not familiar with Vodafone IoT, as a business unit, we're rated as a leading provider of IoT services by industry analysts. We've grown rapidly from a small team of a handful of people 10 years ago to a global team of over 1,400 of us spread across 35 countries, all dedicated to IoT. We've recently passed the significant milestone of 100 million connections, where we saw early adoption of IoT was due to connectivity becoming ubiquitous in sectors like utilities and automotive industry. However, the growth of IoT in healthcare has accelerated significantly over the last few years. We now connect more than 15 million medical devices. We're starting to see how IoT can really deliver change across the spectrum of healthcare as digitization becomes more commonplace and vital, as we've seen throughout the coronavirus pandemic. At Vodafone, a core pillar of our strategy is to be a purpose-led organization and positively affect a digital society. And all of the examples that I present tonight really underline the power of technology to be able to do this. As with other industries before, and in a very accelerated fashion in recent months, healthcare is undergoing a widely publicized and much needed digital transformation. The benefits of digitization in healthcare have been made very evident during the COVID-19 period, allowing us to continue to deliver or adapt care services where possible to carry on supporting patients in need. Digitization already formed a key tenet in strategies such as the NHS long-term plan, and IoT can underpin a number of the benefits identified for digital transformation in healthcare. Firstly, IoT can lower the barriers to healthcare, allowing more of us to receive the benefits of better quality products and services. This can be achieved either through innovation in new products and services, or even innovation in how existing services are delivered. Next, by providing us with the right information at the right time, IoT is allowing more of us to be active participants, empowering us to take more responsibility for our healthcare, and so reduce the burden on healthcare systems, which are often resource stretched. In addition, IoT is helping clinical care and clinical efficiency, as the use of IoT technologies is generating new insight that is complementing existing know-how to improve treatment and workflow by supporting decision-making. Meanwhile, the adoption of digital services is also helping private companies that operate in healthcare become more competitive and innovative, allowing them to create new services that generate incremental revenue or market share, but it also helps companies better address their customers' and users' needs. At Vodafone, we've already seen many examples of where, using our global IoT network, we've helped companies use IoT to deliver the types of benefits I mentioned on the previous slide, right across the spectrum of care. IoT is already successfully being used to broaden access to fundamental resources, such as nutrition, with the flower dosifier that's been created by our customer Sanku, or medication, where drones are being tested to deliver vital drugs such as insulin to places where access can be interrupted through poor weather, for example, as we've demonstrated with the University of Limerick in Ireland. IoT is also being used to ensure the integrity of those products is maintained in supply chain and upon consumption. We have a number of customers operating along the cold chain, providing real-time temperature and location information for temperature-sensitive products in transit and in storage, for example, in fridges. IoT is helping us take more control of our health and allow us to lead a normal life as possible. Even if we're sometimes restricted, IoT is helping us take part in day-to-day activities, such as the company No Isolation, which is allowing homebound children to participate in everyday activities like attending school by using the using the robot head that you can see in the picture in the center in the classroom, using that robot head as a proxy for the presence of children in the classroom. IoT is supporting more vulnerable populations become independent. For example, in this project we have running with MenCap, which I'll describe in a bit more detail in a few slides' time. IoT technology is also being applied to tackle the universal problem of medical adherence in many different ways, whether this is by tracking medication consumption or tracking device use for connected devices. Adherence is an issue that is estimated to cost payers hundreds of billions every year, so positive solutions can have a very significant impact. Care providers are able to redesign clinical pathways through digitization and the use of IoT. It's allowing more patients to be monitored remotely outside of the traditional environment, freeing up inpatient resources, letting patients receive care in a more convenient manner, and also filling in the data blanks where no oversight from a healthcare professional was historically possible. We have many examples of our customers having developed remote patient monitoring solutions, and some of these are already at a mass global scale. I have a couple of examples in the next few slides of where, as Vodafone, we've helped support some solutions in remote patient monitoring. IoT is helping with the increased demand on diagnostic testing, particularly at the point of care. Unsurprisingly, we've recently seen an immediate demand for connectivity services for COVID-19 diagnostic tests, supporting research and public health efforts across the world. Finally, IoT is being used in the digitization of therapies that use novel technology, such as the exoskeleton that you can see at the bottom right-hand corner from a company called Exobionics in the US. It's originally designed for the rehabilitation of those with spinal injuries. It's just possible to stay on mute, please. So there's already many examples of the use of IoT enabled by our network technology. In the next few slides, I want to describe a couple of these examples in a bit more detail to show what Vodafone is doing to innovate in IoT around the world. This first example really highlights the benefit that IoT technology has delivered during the coronavirus pandemic. So this solution was originally developed by us working hand in hand with some lead hospitals in Portugal to help patients recover post-surgery at home rather than in the hospital. This frees up hospital bed capacity, reduces the risk of hospital infections, and allows patients to recuperate in the comfort of their own home. The solution consists of a specially developed hub, which you can see as the white disc in the photo at the top. And this connects to a number of Bluetooth-enabled vital sign devices, such as blood pressure monitor and pulse oximeter. The hub then sends the data from the device to a cloud-based service over our secure IoT network, so that the treating doctors can view patients' progress remotely. The whole system has been designed to be as easy to use as possible by patients, and patients are provided with a tablet that includes a visual guide on how to use the technology. The system's also been designed to be compliant with GDPR, and as well as leveraging our experience in IoT security. And the usefulness of this solution has recently been demonstrated during the coronavirus pandemic. It's been deployed to allow patients recovering from COVID-19 to be discharged from hospital in Lisbon and subsequently monitored at home. This next example is similar in principle, however, it shows how the technology can be adapted to suit the local needs. This is a solution that we've had running in Greece for over 10 years, and it provides access to healthcare to over 500,000 inhabitants in Greece. The solution uses a similar approach to what I just described for Portugal on the previous slide, with a number of vital sign devices sending data to a cloud-based platform. But in this instance, the data facilitates communication between a GP who's supporting a patient in person on one of the Greek islands, and a specialist on a remote location, in this case in mainland Greece. This solution is used for the screening of patients and for routine monitoring, for example, patients with chronic conditions, but more recently, COVID-19 patients. The software platform itself is a medical device, and this contains a comprehensive set of features to help guide the GPs and the specialists. So it provides a longitudinal view of a patient's health, as well as a snapshot of a number of risk factors. It can be tailored for specific conditions, such as hypertension, and is integrated into the local e-prescription system in Greece. So these capabilities facilitate decision-making, and they also support collaboration across an extended care team, not just by providing a consistent view of a patient's record, but also through communication tools such as video calling and secure messaging. This example showcases some of the innovation we're working on for the independent living market. So we've been working collaboratively with MenCap, the learning disability charity in the UK, to help support some of the residents in their shared facilities become more independent. We can do this by helping them with their daily routines, facilitating communication or making them feel more secure. So the technology used in this particular example is an adaptation of a consumer smart home platform. The consumer solution is a comprehensive platform that allows many different devices to be attached to a home hub. And based on MenCap input, we've customized this for this particular use case by integrating technologies such as smart lighting, smart locks, and video calling, and by providing individual control to residents through specially designed software routines. We've created some of these routines to help the residents learn and maintain consistency in their daily activity, for example, prompts for washing or sleeping. The system is currently undergoing testing in a number of homes, and it's had fantastic feedback from residents in how it's helped them become more empowered and support them in their daily living. But it also helps carers by freeing up some of their valuable time. If you'd like to find out more, then I suggest looking at our Vodafone UK website. There's some videos that provide some of this feedback firsthand. And like the examples I showed before, again, this technology has really proved its worth in the last few months, as it's been used to maintain communication between carers and the residents that have needed to self-isolate. So it's proved invaluable. Taking us in a slightly different direction is this example from Mezzanine, which is a specialist software company that is part of the Vodafone family in South Africa. Mezzanine have a digital health platform that addresses a number of local needs across Africa. One of these needs is supporting viral load testing and the tracking of samples between health facilities and test laboratories for HIV care. Mezzanine have created an app called eLabs, and this logs samples as they're collected in barcoded vials in a local health facility. They then track the vial as it's being transported to a lab, and they're also collecting temperature along the way via a Bluetooth-enabled sensor that connects to the app. So that when a test result is ready, a patient is notified by SMS, and then they can return to the clinic to pick up the result. All of the information is collected in a cloud-based platform, which is also integrated into lab information systems and other systems for population-level analysis if this is needed. This information is critical in the support of test and trace programs for COVID-19 in South Africa and Zambia, where the system is now being used. So by using this technology, the accuracy and the timeliness of test result collection and reporting can be improved. So we've seen a broad range of applications up to now already, but we know that we're still quite early in the adoption of IoT in healthcare. Many predict that the Internet of Medical Things market will grow many more times over the next few years. And as a key technology provider, we believe that we have a role to play to help facilitate the adoption of IoT in healthcare so that even more people can benefit. Over the next couple of slides, I wanted to give you a bit of insight into the activities we're working on in a couple of areas to help others create and implement IoT. Now, IoT solutions generally consist of the same fundamental building blocks, from devices to connectivity to application services, and finally, the insights that these solutions deliver. So we're innovating across all of this IoT chain, but the areas I cover off in the next couple of slides focus on the work we're doing to integrate secure connectivity into devices, and then how we're driving the next generation of network connectivity. So in this example, I wanted to show what innovation has taken place and what we're doing to greatly simplify the adoption of secure IoT connectivity into devices. We're doing this by redesigning some of the electronics and integrating the three main components needed for secure SIM-based IoT devices into a single system-on-chip design. These three components that I mentioned are the cellular modem, which is used to help with the transmission of data, the main microcontroller, which controls the device itself, and the SIM, which is provided by us as the network operator to allow access to the network. Integrating these components into a single design brings a number of different advantages. It reduces the number of components and the size of electronics, meaning that direct IoT communication can be embedded in smaller devices such as wearables or portable devices like inhalers, but it also brings the additional security benefits of a cellular network. This development is particularly novel as it helps device manufacturers get the most of new low-power IoT networks that are now being made available. Even though we're only co-developing with some select lead customers at this stage, there's a lot of early interest from healthcare companies who see the advantage of this type of technology for meeting unmet patient needs. The manufacturer buyer has used this technology to create a unique smart label, which you can see on the surface of this box. And this helps monitor some of their products in the supply chain. The label is placed on certain packages using a printed flexible battery and the new communication technology that I just described. And when the package is opened, it automatically triggers a signal notifying that this has happened. This can help with monitoring shelf life, package location, and even integrity of the package. So this non-intrusive communication would not have been possible at this cost without this innovation. And we typically would have had to track these packages using manual scans. So enabling it to be done automatically anywhere in the world is really transformational. The final subject I wanted to cover off is 5G. Now, most people would have heard that we're currently rolling out 5G technology, currently live in many cities across a number of countries in Vodafone. We're gathering some good experience as to what people and businesses can create with 5G. A lot of the excitement around 5G is that it possesses new characteristics that shift our perception of how cellular technology can be used. Firstly, the additional bandwidth available for 5G spectrum allows far more capacity and much greater speed when compared against 4G, reaching speeds in excess of 1 gigabits per second. 5G networks, including the low-powered networks that I just mentioned, fall under these standards. They've all been designed to handle many more devices connecting to each cell site, so future-proofing against the expected growth of IoT use cases and the additional burden on our network operations that this might bring. Latency of connections is going to be dramatically reduced by upgrades to radio and the introduction of edge computing, which is where applications can be moved to the edge of the network, and so reducing the need for traffic to travel to cloud services. Finally, with 5G, there's the ability to define slices of the network, which means that networks with specific characteristics can be created for different purposes. So as an example, some healthcare applications will have different needs to consumer applications like gaming. So in healthcare, there might be a need for a higher quality of service, but maybe lower bandwidth requirements. So as I said, 5G really does bring a lot of additional benefit that will help create the next wave of innovation. So in these final examples, I wanted to show some of the innovation that we're starting to see and enable across Vodafone with this new technology. And these examples, I just wanted to highlight the work that we're doing in Milan in Italy, where we've been exploring the potential benefit of 5G for the last 3 years. So Vodafone Italy won a tender to create an extensive 5G testbed in Milan 3 years ago. And since then, we've collaborated with nearly 40 partners to develop close to 50 different use cases across a number of different sectors. Healthcare is one of those key sectors, and we've been running 10 projects across a number of use cases for the last 2 years. And you can see the list of use cases along the bottom of the slide. So I just wanted to shed a bit more light on 2 of those projects to show you what 5G can enable. So the first solution on the left-hand side is seemingly a typical case of remote patient monitoring, similar to what I described before for Portugal and Greece, where patients suffering from cardiac conditions can be discharged from hospital early so that they can be monitored by their doctors in the comfort of their own home. However, in this instance, the vital sign monitoring is done using a sensor-equipped T-shirt. It's actually a certified medical device. Using 5G routers, the T-shirt streams cardiac and respiratory function in real time into one of our partners' platforms. On that platform, machine learning is being used to detect any potentially critical issues. Again, using 5G, clinicians can then follow up with patients through high-resolution video streams in place of the traditional face-to-face visits. By placing sensors in clothes, it brings another number of benefits, not just for the patients, but for the researchers that are conducting this project. It's a much more convenient form factor, and it allows the devices to monitor at night while patients are sleeping. This means that patients can participate in standard sleep tests in a real-world setting, i.e. their own beds, rather than a test facility. Whilst this technology is currently at clinical research stage and it's intended for a specific purpose, it's not inconceivable that at some point in the future, a similar approach could be used for passive monitoring in our own everyday lives, and medical technology gets integrated into everyday items, such as our own clothes, or even devices at home. The next use case on the right-hand side of the screen shows how 5G technology can be used to further the reach of specialists across more locations. In this instance, radiologists in one location are able to interact and support technicians performing CT scans in another location, meaning that their specialist skills can have further reach and be benefited by more of the population. So remote support through the sharing of high-resolution images and videos means that the doctors can view the CT machine console in real time to ensure that it's correctly set up, but it also allows them to guide technicians to the sections of interest for the scan. A CT scan might consist of 5,000 or so high-resolution images per exam. So real-time intervention and oversight requires a network that's able to manage a very high data load. And it goes without saying that this is very sensitive information, so network security considerations are paramount. The innovation that we're delivering with 5G technology is allowing all of this to happen. So in summary, I think it's now generally recognized that healthcare can benefit significantly from digitization in a number of ways. And hopefully I've given you, some good examples this evening. IoT is underpinning the digitization effort as it allows the capture of data for so many different applications. The adoption of IoT is already happening now. We've already seen many different applications being developed. Some, as I mentioned, at a truly global scale. And through advances in technology and service maturity, it's becoming even easier to adopt and roll out IoT solutions. But we recognize that this is still early days. With the advances we're introducing in network communication technology, we're allowing even more innovation to take place in the future. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your time this evening. I hope it's been of interest and you found some inspiration. If anybody would like any more information on the examples I mentioned, feel free to follow up with me after this session, or I'm happy to address any questions on the Zoom platform. I think, as Tahida mentioned, if you have any questions, then feel free to post them in the chat function on Zoom. And I think if you can address them to the Ask Question Here participant, then we should be able to view them. So I'll just stop sharing my slides and see if any have come through.
We have a few questions. So the first question we have is, how soon are we likely to see the patient hub in the UK healthcare system?
So I mean, that's a good question. I think there's a number of different approaches to telehealth. Some of those have already been taken up within the UK. So I think, as I mentioned, the Portugal and the Greece solution are quite similar in approach with technology, but there are a number of telehealth deployments that already exist in the UK. That specific hub that we deployed in Portugal is something that we're considering about how we extend that into other UK markets. So I can't give an exact time on that specific technology, but I think we recognise that already there are very similar technologies available in the UK.
Okay. The next question we have, is there a lot of red tape that a pharmacy would have to work through if they wanted to adopt a more digitized approach?
Yeah, it's another great question. Clearly, as I mentioned, there's a number of sensitivities around the technology. Some of that might be taken on by the technology solution developer. For example, as I've mentioned, some of the software itself is certified as medical devices. There's sensitivity around the data, and those considerations might have to be taken into account in developing a system. But I think there's enough expertise within both the technology providers and amongst the supporting bodies to be able to help navigate the red tape that exists.
Okay. And we have another question. What is Vodafone's appetite like when it comes to working with pharmacies in regards to innovating? And I think currently the pharmacy market is going through quite a bit of change. There's a big fear that the internet pharmacies are going to come on, like big companies like Pharmacy2, the Amazons will come along and change everything, and it will get the brick and mortar farms at a disadvantage. So how would a small community pharmacy be able to leverage the know-how of a company like Vodafone to kind of be at an equal footing, or at least try to be at an equal footing?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. We recognise that Vodafone's customer base is very diverse. So we work, and likewise our partner ecosystem. We work with the largest of multinational corporations, but we also recognise that small and medium enterprise make up a significant portion of our customer base. And actually, within Vodafone IoT, if I just look beyond the healthcare solutions that I mentioned, we've been creating a portfolio of services specifically for the SME market. So we do have an appetite to work with companies to innovate, regardless of size, and we're open to getting feedback and input and working with organizations. So please feel free to reach out to me. I'll see if I can kind of help navigate the Vodafone family.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of pharmacy owners on our network. So if you guys do have any questions about how to become more digitized and how to improve your services and reach out to customers online, you can get in touch with us, and we'll put you in touch with the team at the landing, and of course with Vodafone as well. Next question we have is, how can you ensure the sensitivity of information is secure? For example, how do you stop digital prescriptions getting shared? I mean, data privacy is obviously a big issue in healthcare. How can you be certain that the IoTs that are transmitting all this private information, the healthcare information, how secure is it, basically? That's what
again, great question. Security is always raised as an area of concern for good reason. There are maybe several layers of of answer to that question. So on one side, there is the network itself that Vodafone owns and operates. We obviously maintain the highest levels of security over our network and adhere to all necessary standards around that. And information is particularly on our IoT platform, is kept separate from our consumer data. And then there's security in terms of the software applications themselves, and likewise there are existing standards that exist that define best practice. So when we're looking at our own solutions or our partner solutions, then obviously we need to look to see that we're implementing best practice, and some of that is something that should be looked out for in terms of the service providers. And then there's also the element of security in implementation, because quite often the users of the system are people, and the processes and procedures that need to be considered, to ensure that everybody's aware of the sensitive nature of the data, is also something that should be taken into account. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we would obviously recommend not only looking at the technology, but also how the change of implementing the technology is designed.
Okay. Thanks for that. And that's when it comes to security, there's obviously a lot of layers of that. There's a lot of issues around security, and people are rightly concerned. So I think that'll be a whole topic by itself.
Exactly.
We've got a question from someone who's interested in the drone delivery project that you guys are doing. So he wants to know, where is it currently being trialed, and what are the restrictions for the aviation authority, and are the governments on board with this kind of delivery systems?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very good question again. So that was being trialed in Ireland, and obviously in that particular instance, there was approval from the aviation authorities to perform the trial. It's obviously come under consideration for how it might support supply chain efforts around COVID-19 activity, and the question is an ongoing discussion, and I think the aviation authorities in each particular country will take their own view, but I know that that's an ongoing dialogue that has been raised in Ireland. So I think there's a recognition that it's quite early in terms of how these types of drone services should be implemented, but it's necessary to go through that implementation to ensure that they're properly designed, and a lot of the consideration is covered off.
Okay. And one last question this is a question for Barclays. And I think for Tony, this one's for you. Question has the current pandemic changed the way banks think when it comes to supporting the healthcare sector, such as pharmacies, when it comes to their cash flow needs or borrowing requirements?
Yes, okay, I'm on now. What I would say on that, the last 6 months, and I'd say the next 6 months, you are going to see a slightly changing picture. We've still got an appetite to support businesses with cash flow needs, not just cash flow for purchases of property, particularly within the pharmacy sector. But I would say, what I would add to that is that we just need to do a little bit more enhanced due diligence. We might need to request a little bit more financial information, predominantly if a business has perhaps taken a coronavirus business interruption loan or a bounce back loan. We need to build that into the debt service cover if it's a loan, as well as a new proposition either for cash flow or overdraft or loan funding. So yeah, there's been a tightening of policies across the board. I think you'd expect that from most banks in the current climate, but we've still got an appetite there, and we're still strong in the pharmacy sector. So we're still looking to support. It's just that we might ask for a bit of additional financial information.
I think a lot of the questions I've had and discussions we've had on the network around the opening new pharmacies, a lot of newly qualified pharmacists or pharmacists have been managers for some time. They're looking to open their own place.
Sure.
Obviously, with the change in the market forces at the moment, with the advent of online pharmacies, and there's a lot of rumors that companies like Amazon might be coming into the UK pharmacy market. Is there still appetite? I mean, are the banks still lending money to someone who wants to open a $100 pharmacy or someone who wants to open an online pharmacy?
They are, but we are, but we'd obviously strongly look at projections as well, especially for a startup business. I think the debt service cover is slightly higher, but we just got to do that enhanced due diligence, but it's more projection based. So that's always been part of the offering, startups as well as existing established businesses. But we just have to make sure that we can prove the affordability and we're convinced who the people are behind the business and the professionalism. So yeah, there's still an appetite there.
Thank you, Tony, for answering these questions, and thank you everyone for coming to the event today. I don't think we've got any more questions coming in, do we, from our guests? Okay, so we've got a question: where could you get the recording of the meetings? We'll be putting this up on YouTube, and I'll share the links across Facebook, Telegram network, WhatsApp networks, and also on Instagram and other social network sites and Twitter. So the links will be out probably by tomorrow. So again, thanks everyone for coming today, and thanks to John for your insightful talk today.
My pleasure.
That's it. That's it for today.
Cool. I think I just wanted to jump in there quickly on behalf of the Landing and Parkland Eagle Lab. I just want to say thank you for everyone who's turned up today. I actually have a very short survey that I'd like to just pop up on the screen. If you could take a shot of your, of the QR code and let us get some feedback on the event, I'd really appreciate it. So let me work out how to do that. Cool. So if you can all see that, then hopefully we can get some feedback and we can keep putting on events like this and tailor them a bit more to what you guys are looking for. And thank you very much for coming.